Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. It is I, God Empress Jessie Milestone, recording in a hotel room in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with one of the absolute worst lighting setups I have ever had to endure in a hotel room. I've had this little light in front of me, and that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I can, because the other freestanding lamp is just way too freaking heavy to move, and way too far away from this light. I guess I could move this light over there, but I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what I come up with in the next few days. But the point is, we're here today to talk about the Me Too movement and what it should have been about. So, in case you're not familiar with or you've forgotten where the origins of this movement started, or when this really took off, when the hashtag kind of exploded, it happened during the election cycle where first, it was one woman accused Trump of sexual misconduct with her, and then that was followed by other women, and all were, of course, disbelieved, disputed cases by Trump himself and his campaign and many people, as is wont to happen when someone is accused, guilty or not, they tend to refute it. But then in the light of that, because it felt like this thing where one woman would come out and then another woman would say, "Oh, that happened to me as well. I feel empowered now to say this," and other women were seeing these stories go swept under the rug, disbelieved, etc. And more women came out and said, "I have a story too. This happened to me as well." Hence the sudden explosion of the hashtag Me Too. And initially, this was a nice thing. This was a nice showing of solidarity between people who felt previously alone in these experiences and are now realizing, oh my God, I'm not the only one, and I can come forward and share it because I will be supported by other people. It was also a shocking revelation as tens of thousands of women took to Twitter to share their own stories, to just demonstrate just how widespread of an issue this is. Because it is. Look, it happens. It's ridiculously widespread, and one of the reasons for it, one of the reasons why it hasn't been addressed and why the Me Too movement sprung up is for the part I'll get to later, which is how it's dealt with in society, right? So that was where the Me Too movement started. How nice, right? It quickly became, devolved into this perpetual cycle of victimhood, whereby, once again, rather than seeking empowerment, it became about defining oneself as a victim and demanding change rather than looking for ways to create it. And then, as we all know, it turned into a witch hunt. It turned into an angry mob that went around lynching people, and treated all of its victims equally. It took down Harvey Weinstein, which, let's face it, that was a wonderful thing. That Harvey Weinstein is an abject, disgusting pig, and I am glad that was exposed. But it also attacked people with far lesser offenses indiscriminately. You know, people who maybe deserve to be sentenced to a few months of community service for being too gropey drunk at a party once and feeling really bad about it, you know, to people like Harvey Weinstein who are actually sexually assaulting women. And there is a difference between those crimes, and they should not be treated equally. Somebody who gets a little too handsy at a party, that's wrong, and there should be consequences for those behaviors if they've been told to stop and they don't stop. But those consequences should not necessarily be having their entire life, career, and reputation ruined. So I take odds, once that movement turned into a lynch mob, I take odds to that because I do believe that in due process, and I do believe in the justice system. I don't believe in it that it works, but I believe that we need it, and that is what the Me Too movement should have been about. It should not have been about randomly lynching people. It should have been about reforming the justice system and the way it handles these cases. Because this is the thing, right? And here's the problem, which is what happens when you have this populist movement doesn't have any foundation in real change, right? Now, the popular perception for a lot of people, especially men, is that they're in fear of being Me Too'd, that this is now a thing where women have all of the power, and if they name you, your life is over, right? This is the perception. This is not the reality. Maybe if you're high profile, if you're a celebrity, if you're in the public eye, you're more in danger of getting Me Too'd, as it were. But the reality is, the vast majority of sexual harassment allegations happen on the small scale, even sexual assault. They're happening to every ordinary, everyday people with no venue to have their story told to the American public and the masses. And for the large part, the justice system fails these people. You don't believe me? Let's look at Justin Schneider. Justin Schneider just had his trial, right? What did Justin Schneider do? This is an Alaska man who last year kidnapped a woman. So this woman was hitchhiking specifically, which, by the way, like, in this day and age, in this country, unless you are well-versed in the art of self-defense, probably don't hitchhike. That said, that is not an excuse for what happened next, which is that this man gives her a false name, drives her off to some abandoned construction site, gets her out of the car, tells her she's going to die while assaulting her and strangling her, strangles her till she loses consciousness, and then jacks off on her. She wakes up with him handing her a tissue to clean off the ejaculate and explains to her that he was never going to kill her, but he needed her to believe that she was going to die in order for him to be sexually fulfilled. So this guy, this is clearly something, right? This is how this guy gets off, at making a woman believe that he's going to murder her and then jack off on her body. That's how he gets off. So he was caught because he gave her a tissue full of his ejaculate, or that she then, filled with his ejaculate that she left all over his body, because obviously he's an idiot. And he posted bail and spent a year on house arrest with his family, because he has a family, which is just sickening. A year on house arrest, at which point he took a plea bargain, pled guilty for certain counts, others were dropped. And this man was given 2 years, one of which was waived, the other of which was considered time served for his year of house arrest. This man was not required to register as a sex offender, because apparently jacking off on somebody against their will is not a sex crime in Alaska. So this man, the judge told him, he lost his job. He was an air traffic controller and he lost his job. And the judge was already like, well, that's enough of a life sentence. So he gets a pass this time. But we want him to know this behavior will not be tolerated. And Justice Schneider has yet to apologize for this behavior. Instead, he said, well, this year gave me a lot of reflection to think about the kind of man and father I'd like to be for my family. And this man just walked scot-free. And this poor woman is traumatized and scarred for the rest of her life. And there is no justice. Right? And that is what happens the vast majority of the time. There was the cut and dry, what was it? It was a California school, a cut and dry rape case. 100% clear that this guy raped this girl, and he got 3 months or something like that. Raping somebody, sexually assaulting somebody is such a violating crime. I mean, for anybody, man or woman, if you've experienced even unwanted sexual advances, you know how gross that feels, right? To have somebody take that a step further and actually remove your agency and force themselves upon you in that way is so devastating and damaging. And we have a justice system that is skewed towards the perpetrators, that says shit like, oh, we'll give him a pass this time. That's fine. That's no problem. He learned his lesson. Right? No, there should be you don't get a chance. When you force somebody to that kind of powerlessness, when you assault somebody in that way, you shouldn't get a second chance. You should have the letter of the law thrown at you, especially in these instances where these people confess or where the evidence is incontrovertible. There's maybe he didn't do it. There's no room. Nobody thinks that Justice Schneider didn't do this. Everyone knows he did. He freaking copped to it. And to sit there and be like, nah, that's okay. He gets a pass is unfucking acceptable. So why isn't the Me Too movement addressing that? Why aren't we addressing something real rather than going on this witch hunt and saying, look at us, we have the power, zap, I destroy you with one wave of my wand? No, fuck that, because that's also, again, you're protecting, the people that are getting protected are more powerful people, because there's powerful people being targeted in powerful positions. It's not always powerful people being targeted. It's not always powerful. Well, it's mostly powerful people being targeted. It's not always powerful victims. But the reality is, no one is talking about what's happening on these small-scale issues. Now, this is the thing, right? If you wanted the Me Too movement to be something positive, right? Anytime someone brings up an allegation, great. Give it to law enforcement and follow the case. Give it to law enforcement, follow the case. Right? Put pressure on the justice system to do its job and enforce justice. And if justice is not done, by all means have your lynch mob. By all means take it to the court of public opinion. That's fine if justice fails to be served, right? But do not bypass the justice system, because what is happening then is that for hundreds of thousands of women out there and men who are being sexually assaulted, justice is not being served. No one is hearing their stories. Or if they are, oh my God, it got 1,000 likes on Twitter. Great. That doesn't put the person who assaulted you behind bars. That does not get justice for you, and it does not reform our justice system in a way that it better protects the victims. So that's what Me Too should have been, could have been. Let's actually make some direct change. Let's have a real message about this is what needs to be fixed. Because guess what? Going around being like, you guys are all rapists, stop your behavior, isn't doing anything. Especially when there are rapists being called out and being accused, and there are people who have much less problematic behavior. Because yes, any time a man forces himself on a woman, or man on a man, or woman on a woman, it doesn't matter. Anytime you sexually force yourself on somebody else in any way that's unwanted is unacceptable. But again, drunkenly trying to kiss someone at a party when they say no is not the same as dragging someone off into your hotel room and assaulting them or exposing yourself to them against their will. Things like that. These are not the same crime, right? And these all need to be taken to the justice system, whose job is to suss out the nature and severity of these offenses and punish them. And if that is not done to its satisfaction, then you take the next steps, right? But we're not actually going to get justice reform, and we're not actually going to get justice for these victims unless we address the problem, which is the justice system. So people like Justin Schneider get registered as sex offenders, because I don't think you or I want this guy near any member of our family. I don't want him near my sister. You wouldn't, or my mom or myself. You wouldn't want him near your daughter. This guy, yeah, you don't want to know that the guy, he got to walk scot-free, who might snatch your daughter off the street and go jack off on her in the woods. You don't want to know that that guy is just out there, not registered as a sex offender, able to do what he's doing, right? So shame on you, Alaska justice system. Shame on you, whatever judge gave him a pass for doing that. You are the problem, and you are perpetuating the problem. And until we address that problem at that systemic level, until we address HR, right? Until we address human resources at companies who slut shame women out of the company because the more powerful man is the one who's harassing her. And if you don't think that happens, fuck you, it does. It happened to me. All right? And I've heard your stories. I've heard a lot of people who've talked about false accusations, and I'm sympathetic because that does happen as well. And it sucks. And I'm sorry when it happens in retaliation. But the reality is, look at the stats, look at the numbers, right? You're all out there being like, well, this happens more than you think. Yes, but for every false accusation, there's probably 1,000 real ones that went unaddressed or unreported. And that needs to change. And that needs to change. And when we have a justice system we can rely on to be fair and to dole out punishment where it's deserved and to get to the bottom of things, then everyone can feel safe. Then people being falsely accused can feel safe because they know the justice system is going to protect them. And people being correctly accused, the victims can feel safe knowing that the people who did this to them are actually going to be fucking punished and not told, you get a pass. Your life is so hard because you lost your job and for some reason your wife still supports you even though you jacked off on a random woman that you kidnapped. Fucking hell. Anyway, that's it. What do you guys think? Where do we go from here? How is there a way to redirect Me Too from where it is to make positive change and positive reform? And how do we start a movement that discusses and addresses the real problems? What are the real problems that you think that we need to address and discuss? Yeah, like I mentioned, I had an issue as well where I was harassed and I was not taken seriously. And I want to talk about that. I'm not going to do it today in this video because it's already way too long. But in the coming days, I'm working up to it. Honestly, I'm working up to it because it's hard for me to talk about still. I finally talked to my parents about it this past year. And that's, I will say, like, there are some positive things that come out of the Me Too movement, and one of it is that it gave me the courage to actually talk to my parents about the time I was sexually harassed. But it's gone way beyond. It's doing more harm than good at this point, and we need to fix that. So let's have this conversation, right? You know me, I'm all open, all ears, whatever you want to say, right? Whatever you want to put in the comments. I'm not going to censor you. I'm not going to delete it. I may respond if I don't agree, but I'm not going to censor you, and I'm not going to delete your comments. So there you go. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't. Click the notification bell so you're getting notified. And share this video if you agree, right? Share it. Let people know what we're talking about here. And if you don't agree, I mean, think about sharing it as well. And you know, again, the court of public opinion's out there. Use it. So yeah, that's all. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna take a nap because I can. Bye. Turn off!